I didn't think much of this team a few months ago. Honestly, nobody did. But right now, they're playing like one of the best teams in the NBA. And the way it's happening feels very real.
What are the Charlotte Hornets?
A dragon slayer hiding in plain sight. They're in the play-in right now. They're in the 9th seed. They are finally at 500 for the first time, I think, since Grandmama and Muggsy Bogues.
Yeah.
We have not seen them play like this in a long time. But they are that team with this offense. And a defense, by the way, that over these 20 games is top 3. They are that team that if you're a contender, if you're a high seed, a 1, 2, or a 3, and you have to face them in the first round, you don't want to, because they are the unknown.
Since January 1st, the Charlotte Hornets have quietly transformed into one of the most dominant teams in the entire NBA. We're talking first in offensive rating, third in net rating, and 6 straight wins by 15 or more points. That kind of run isn't normal. It's historic. In fact, only 3 teams in the last 35 years have pulled that off. The 2004 championship Detroit Pistons, the 2018 champion Golden State Warriors, and now Charlotte. But that's where things get really interesting, because just a couple of months earlier, on November 25th, this same Hornets team was sitting at 4-4 and dead last in the Eastern Conference. Nobody was talking about playoff seeding. Nobody was taking them seriously. The conversation wasn't, can they compete? It was, how high will their lottery pick be? So how does a team go from irrelevant to one of the most dangerous squads in the league? To understand that, you have to go back and look at how bad things really were. The Hornets haven't made the playoffs in over a decade, the longest active drought in the East. And during that time, they've been stuck in the worst position any franchise can be in. Not bad enough to land a generational superstar, but nowhere near good enough to matter. Just stuck. Just existing. Last season felt like rock bottom. A brutal 19-63 record, second worst in the league. But even then, there was something frustrating about it, because the talent was there. You could see it. When healthy, LaMelo Ball is one of the most electric players in basketball. The problem? He just hasn't been on the court consistently. Over the past 3 years, he played barely over 100 games out of a possible 246. Injuries kept interrupting any momentum. Then there's Brandon Miller, the number 2 overall pick, whose potential had people making comparisons to Paul George from day one. But even his rookie season was cut short after just 27 games due to injury. And when your 2 franchise cornerstones can't stay healthy at the same time, you're not building anything. You're just waiting. You weren't building anything, you were just waiting. Waiting for something to finally go right. And when this season started the same way, Charlotte stumbling to a 4-4 record through late November, nobody blinked. By New Year's Eve, they were sitting at 11-22, with the 26th ranked defense in the league. Same story, different year. Another lottery season felt inevitable. The national media had already moved on. But underneath the surface, something was quietly changing. There was a shift, subtle, but real. And most people completely missed it. The 4th overall pick out of Duke, Kon Knueppel, didn't look like a rookie. Not even close. He stepped in and immediately started producing, spacing the floor, knocking down shots, competing on every possession. At the same time, Brandon Miller was finally doing the one thing Charlotte had been waiting for, staying healthy. No setbacks, no minutes restrictions, no interruptions. Just consistent, high-level basketball night after night. And for the first time in years, all the pieces were on the floor together. LaMelo Ball, Brandon Miller, Knueppel, healthy, in rhythm, building chemistry. Now here's the crazy part. Charlotte was still 11 games under .500. But if you were really watching, not just box scores, not just highlights, you could feel it. Something was building. Something was coming. And then January hit, and everything changed. What happened next wasn't just improvement. It wasn't even a hot streak. It was a complete transformation. Before January 1st, Charlotte's offense was solid, 115.1 offensive rating, 12th in the league. Respectable. But their defense? 118.1. That ranked 26th bottom 5. Their net rating sat at -3.0, 21st overall. A team stuck in the middle, not good enough to matter, not bad enough to reset. Now look at what happened after January 1st. Offensive rating, 119.8. First in the NBA. Not top 5, first. Defensive rating, 110.9. Ninth in the league. A jump of 17 spots. Net rating, plus 8.8. Third in the entire NBA. That's not progress. That's a metamorphosis. And the wins? They didn't just come, they piled up. A 9-game winning streak in January and February, their longest since the late 90s. Then another 8-game streak, snapping a 25-year drought. 6 straight wins by 15-plus points, something we haven't seen since the dynasty-level teams like the 2017-18 Warriors. And then a franchise record 10 straight road wins, including walking into Boston and blowing out the Celtics 118-89. That's not luck. That's dominance. But what really matters isn't just that they're winning, it's how they're doing it. Charlotte finally found an identity, and it's terrifying. They're launching over 41 three-pointers per game now, 5th in the league, and hitting them at a 37% clip. Efficient. Relentless. Confident. On top of that, they've become one of the best rebounding teams in basketball. 1st in total rebounding percentage. 2nd in second chance points. Think about that for a second. They're not just taking good shots, they're creating more opportunities than their opponents. More possessions. More pressure. More ways to beat you. This isn't the same Hornets team trying to survive anymore. This is a team that's trying to dominate. And if you needed proof that this is real, not a fluke, not a stretch of easy games, just look at what happened against Miami. A game with real stakes. Real pressure. Real implications. The Heat had already snapped Charlotte's 6-game win streak just 11 days earlier. They knew how to beat them. They had the blueprint. But this time? This time was different. Because Charlotte wasn't the same team anymore. Obsession matters and the intensity builds all the way to the final minutes. But what actually happened told a completely different story. The Charlotte Hornets didn't just beat the Miami Heat, they overwhelmed them, controlled them, and eventually broke them, winning 136-106 in a game that never really felt close after the first stretch. From the opening minutes, Charlotte looked sharper, faster, more connected, and by the time the fourth quarter arrived, the result was already decided. LaMelo Ball led everything with 30 points and 13 assists, crossing the 6,000 career point mark along the way, orchestrating the offense with a level of control that made it look effortless. Kon Knueppel added 22 points, spacing the floor and punishing every defensive mistake, while Kobe White came off the bench with 24, adding another layer of pressure Miami simply couldn't handle. Charlotte led by 30 in the fourth quarter and never looked back, and that's the part that matters most because this didn't look like a team fighting for survival. This looked like a team that already knew exactly who it was. And that's the real shift here, because this isn't about sneaking into the play-in or catching teams off guard anymore. This is about a team that has found its identity, and is now playing with confidence that shows up in every possession. What we're seeing from Charlotte right now isn't just the result of a system change or a favorable schedule, it's the result of something much deeper, something that took time to build and finally came together at the same moment. 3 players, 3 different skill sets, 3 different paths, all aligning at once and turning into something much bigger than the sum of its parts. Kon Knueppel is the first piece of that puzzle, and his rise is one of the biggest reasons this transformation feels real. Coming into the league, he wasn't the headline name, he wasn't the player everyone was talking about, and at Duke, much of the attention went elsewhere, leaving him slightly overlooked despite his skill set. Many people labeled him as just a shooter, a floor spacer who could contribute but not necessarily change a team's trajectory. But Charlotte saw something different, and now the rest of the league is starting to catch up. He's averaging nearly 20 points per game as a rookie, and he's doing it with efficiency, confidence, and consistency that doesn't feel normal for a first-year player. He didn't just break the rookie three-point record, he blew past it, already sitting above 230 made threes and still climbing, putting himself on pace for over 280 by the end of the season. For context, even Stephen Curry, the greatest shooter in NBA history, didn't reach that number in his early years, which makes what Knueppel is doing even more remarkable. And it's not just about volume, it's about impact. Because he's not just leading rookies, he's leading the entire league in three-pointers made, forcing defenses to account for him at all times. You can't sag off him, you can't overhelp, and if you lose track of him for even a second, the possession is over because the shot is already on its way. The second piece is Brandon Miller, and in many ways, his development feels like the missing link that this team had been waiting for. The talent was never the question. From the moment he was drafted, the comparison started, the expectations were high, and everyone could see what he could become, but injuries kept interrupting that process before it could really take shape. Last season was frustrating, just 27 games, flashes of brilliance mixed with long absences, leading the team without any real continuity. But this season has been different from the start. He's stayed healthy, he's stayed on the court, and that consistency has allowed his game to expand in ways that weren't possible before. He's averaging over 20 points per game, leading the team in scoring, and doing it in a way that feels controlled rather than forced. But what really elevates his impact is the defensive side, because he's not just scoring, he's affecting the game in multiple ways, contesting shots, switching across positions, and making life difficult for opposing players. At his size, with his skill set, he's becoming exactly the type of two-way player that every contender needs, someone who can create offense while also anchoring defensive possessions when it matters. And then there's the engine, the player who ties everything together, LaMelo Ball. He's still the most dynamic player on the roster, still capable of taking over games with his creativity and scoring. But this year, the biggest change isn't what he's doing, it's how he's doing it. He's playing smarter, more controlled, more aware of the pieces around him. Instead of forcing shots or dominating the ball on every possession, he's orchestrating, letting the game come to him, trusting his teammates to carry part of the load. His numbers reflect that shift, slightly lower scoring but higher efficiency, strong playmaking, and most importantly, a noticeable impact on the team's overall performance. When he's on the floor, Charlotte's offense reaches elite levels, flowing with rhythm and spacing, and when he sits, there's a clear drop, a reminder of how important his presence is. But beyond the numbers, the real difference is his engagement on the defensive end. He's not suddenly an elite defender, but the effort is there, the awareness is improving, and when your best player commits to that side of the floor, it changes the entire tone of the team. What makes this trio so effective isn't just their individual talent, it's how well they fit together. Knueppel stretches the defense, forcing defenders to stay attached. Miller attacks gaps and creates mismatches. LaMelo controls the pace and delivers the ball exactly where it needs to go. Each player complements the others, and that balance is what turns a group of talented individuals into a functional system. But even with that talent, none of this works without structure, and that's where the coaching comes in. Head coach Charles Lee has played a crucial role in shaping what this team has become. In just his second year, he's brought a level of clarity and direction that was missing before, implementing a system built on spacing, ball movement, and pace. You can see the influence of his background in winning environments, the emphasis on efficient shot selection, the willingness to push tempo, and the trust in players to make the right reads. This isn't complicated basketball, it's disciplined basketball, and when executed properly, it becomes extremely difficult to defend. The Hornets are now among the league leaders in three-point attempts, taking over 40 per game and converting at a strong percentage, and they've combined that with improved rebounding, creating extra possessions and limiting second chances for opponents. It's a complete approach, one that focuses on maximizing every opportunity. But systems alone don't create this kind of transformation. Players have to buy in, and that's where the cultural shift becomes just as important as the tactical one. There's a sense of connection within this team that wasn't there before, a willingness to play for each other, to trust the system, and to embrace defined roles. Whether it's leadership moments off the court or the way players communicate during games, everything feels aligned. LaMelo is setting the tone with his approach, Miller is reinforcing it with consistency, and Knueppel is adding energy and confidence, creating an environment where everyone understands what they're trying to accomplish. The supporting cast has also played its part. Players like Miles Bridges have embraced their roles, contributing without needing to dominate the ball, while others have stepped up in specific areas, whether it's rebounding, defense, or providing scoring off the bench. It's not about one player carrying the team, it's about multiple pieces working together, each fulfilling a role within the larger structure. That balance is what allows the team to sustain success rather than relying on short bursts of momentum. And the results speak for themselves. Charlotte has already surpassed last season's win total and is pushing toward playoff positioning with real momentum. They've turned a season that looked like another rebuild into something meaningful, something competitive, something that other teams now have to take seriously. The standings reflect the progress, but more importantly, the way they're playing reflects a team that has figured something out. Looking at the bigger picture, this kind of transformation isn't something that happens by accident. We've seen similar patterns before, young teams that suddenly come together when the timing is right, when health, development, and structure align at the same moment. It's the kind of shift that turns a struggling franchise into a rising contender, the kind of moment where everything starts to make sense. That's where Charlotte is right now. Not at the finish line, not yet a championship contender, but no longer stuck in the cycle that defined the past decade. They've moved forward, established a foundation, and created something that feels sustainable. There's still growth ahead, still challenges to face, but the direction is clear, and the progress is undeniable. For years, the Hornets were overlooked, dismissed as a team without a clear future, a franchise stuck in a loop of mediocrity. But over the past few months, they've changed that perception completely. They've gone from irrelevant to intriguing, from struggling to competitive, and from uncertain to confident. And now, instead of asking when they'll become relevant again, the conversation has shifted to something much more immediate. The Charlotte Hornets aren't coming anymore. They're already here. So yeah, this isn't just a random run. Something real is building here. And if they keep playing like this, the rest of the league might have a problem. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you in the next one.